This is CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast with Business Solutions MVPs Joel Lindstrom and Sean Tabor. This episode is sponsored by the Dynamics 365 user group. The user group for Dynamics 365 and CRM community is powered by users, for users, and specializes in the delivery of member-driven education, networking, and events to help you maximize your current Microsoft Dynamics investment. We thank CRMUG for sponsoring CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast. So what big breaking news do we have? I guess since the last episode, the last CRM Audio episode, we have the public preview for marketing. Have you been looking at that stuff?
Off and on. I haven't really gotten a chance to look at it too much. I've been more in depth with the field service and the project service, trying to get up to speed on those. But from what I've seen of the Dynamics 365 marketing, it looks very good.
Right. Yeah, it's I've been looking at it in the preview that we couldn't talk about for several months, and I think it's going to be a solid product. I think there's some confusion on where it fits, because initially it was part of Business Edition and people thought it was going to be like really basic marketing, but it's got some nice stuff in there. And the things, if you haven't looked at it, look at how it does things like lead scoring using customer insights, how it does surveys using voice of the customer, how it does portals or landing pages via portals. It's not a total new thing. It's leveraging these existing tools, which here's my hope. I hope that will make each of those a better thing, because each of those voice of the customer has been good. I have a number of customers using it, but there's a few rough edges in it still. Same thing with portals. It's good, but it's not perfect. But if we get the marketing solution, which has a pretty wide appeal, and get people using it, you increase the value of those solutions, and it kind of has a magnifying effect, I think.
Well, and it's done a lot of things. Hopefully to that end of growing those other elements within the platform, within the Dynamics 365 portfolio. History hasn't really done that. It has shown that just because you release something new, it grows the commensurate parts even more. It tends to lean on those for functionality greater than normal, but I'm hoping that it does. Like you see a little bit more out of voice of the customer. You see a little more out of the, especially the new. I'm wondering how this will play in as well with the lead form generation that you get out of LinkedIn, and how it ties into that LinkedIn realm. Like once you get both subscriptions, what functionality this will expose to the user. That's I think it's something that's keen on me, because the more you have able from a sales perspective to market to the different angles, the different information, I think all the better for the Dynamics 365 user.
Right. I think some of the cost of it is still unclear, especially with using things like customer insights for segmentation and scoring purposes, which is really powerful. And if you've heard Power BI more, Ulrich has referenced it multiple times. He's really excited about it. But the thing is, there's costs and transaction costs associated with that and other Azure services that add to the questions that we get all the time about what's our ongoing cost going to be for storage and for transactions in Azure. And I'm sure that all that'll shake out. But I think the positive thing is it makes something like Voice of the Customer, which again was a good solution, but wasn't like a major milestone product that is the first part on the list. In my opinion, that probably adds to the future prospects of that piece of functionality and gives me more confidence in rolling it out.
Right, and it appears from the onset that the new changes are big enough and impactful enough from an insight perspective that people like Click Dimensions are kind of moving. They're shifting their paradigm into what they're going to do at post release already, as opposed to an extension of the Dynamics capability. So it's interesting to see. This is for the first time in a long time. We've seen something very, very almost positive out of a release this early.
Yeah, I agree. And also building it on pieces that are already there, that makes it maybe not as much of a 1.0 product because you're using things that are already there, already tried and true. And also, I think the fact that it's got event management, which I haven't done that much with the event management, so I'm anxious to see where that goes. That would make it attractive to people maybe who aren't necessarily in it for the email automation. You could really get this solution even if you don't want to email blast people. If you just want to do customer segmentation and you want to manage events and things like that, there's a lot of value in this. They definitely learned their lesson from the original Dynamics marketing, which had some really nice experience for designing templates and stuff, but was just really disconnected from Dynamics other than really, really basic integrations. The fact this is a solution in Dynamics makes it more of a real product and something that I think people will be more likely to adapt.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how this is going to really transform the lead nurturing, lead qualification, lead scoring, how that can really change how you go after leads using a number of different demographics and scoring and effectiveness insights with a new tool, as opposed to standard lead management now, which is relatively archaic.
Right. I want to know what's going to happen with the out-of-the-box marketing stuff, because we got so many customers using the standard pieces, and many of them are happy with it. If you're smaller, or if you have one marketing person, you're using it for salespeople doing email blasts or quick campaigns, you're fine with that functionality, and you're not looking for it to be a real robust marketing solution. But now you got this other solution that duplicates some of the functionality. I gotta wonder, are they going to bring them together more, or what do you think will happen there?
But because I work with, as you do, I work with a lot of enterprise customers, and there's an appetite within enterprise customers to have the functionality and capability of the business, what was previously called the business edition of marketing, within their own city states, within their enterprise. So their business units want to have a enterprise quality marketing tool without the overhead of the agency aspects, right? So that's where that fit comes in, and I think works really well for what they're providing in the preview. And that's where I see, I think that's most of where my tone of it should have been in the core product comes from, because I could see a lot of groups that may not be familiar with that kind of capability would be interested in that usage and would get a lot out of it. However, you lose the additional fees and privileges, I guess.
Yeah, and still to wonder, with plan licenses, kind of all you can eat enterprise plan licenses, are they going to include marketing? So you might still have that. Right. That's enough marketing talk for today.
Agreed. Agreed.
So we had last week the special episode with Scott LaFonte talking about mobile, V9 mobile versus Resco. Then we had on Friday, we had Ivan from Resco talking about, Resco. We've had a lot of Resco on these days.
Yes.
So
yes.
what's your take on, so you weren't on the episode with Scott, is, who who is the V9 mobile good for? Because I was looking at my tip of the day I wrote about when you need Resco, and 2 or 3 of the things I had mentioned in there are no longer accurate, because now you got, with App Builder being in V9 Mobile and it being the unified interface, finally you can have a mobile specific experience with the standard app. And I know the field service with the maps and the routing and all that, there's a reason that's for field service. But what is your take on that?
Well, and it really depends on the job to be done, in my opinion. For field service, I think right now Resco is the solution that you would use. If you're not in a field service capacity where you're being dispatched and having to work a work order and dispatch service, the V9 client for mobile, as you said, can be perfectly tailored to your job experience. And I think that's an important component, because previously, when you go into implementations and you're saying, okay, we can make everything mobile, you're mainly thinking of the salesperson. You're thinking of the person on the go that doesn't have time to go into the CRM unit or application, that wants access to their information as quick as possible. And we've seen through Microsoft's multiple demos that you can access the way you handle activities through your customers, through what you send them, through what you quote them, in various applications now that they're application aware, right? Through all of the mobile applications, including mobile Outlook. So it's not an easy question to answer, because now you can really tailor it in such a way to make that experience unique to every type of user. You may find that some users with the mobile device being an iPad, okay, that real estate offers you certain abilities and access to information that wouldn't enable you on an iPhone 10, right? So I think now the question is, with the mobile experience, what is the real estate? What is the job experience? What is the end business outcome? Is really what you need to do to understand what the benefit is of mobile. Because there's definitely a fit to it, but it comes down to that business outcome and what real estate you have to work with.
Right. I think
the tools.
I think with V9, and a lot of it comes in. I think Resco, and this is oversimplification, I think Resco may be a better fit if mobile is the user's only interface, because you could build a totally flowed out experience on mobile that's the only thing they do. Like the technician, that might be his only interface for mobile.
Yep.
But the benefit for people who use both browser and mobile of the Dynamics 365 V9 app is you got the same look and feel. You got the same interface now, basically. So there's not that disconnect of I'm using a different app now. There's also a lower price, but I'm a fan of Resco. So here's the thing: when I look at the agenda for Resco Next conference, I see you are at the same time as Ben Vollmer, and that's a big hat to fill. So, like, how do you compete with Ben?
What we do is we send numerous emails to the conference staff saying, "Hey, we're at the same time as Ben Vollmer. Make that different, and see what happens." So, because there's no way to compete with Ben. There isn't. And that's not a knock on Ben. It's just right now, for any field service kind of conference, I mean, he's as big as you get. And so what we're trying to do is complement him as best as we could, and with our tips and tricks for the
that may be our title. Ben is as big as it gets.
Ben is as big as it gets. And that bulbous head, he'd be all about it.
Right.
Yeah. He's been nothing but kind to at least the At Your Service podcast. He's a good friend of the pod there, to where he's really helped us out there and got us some good guests and been on the pod. So we're excited about.
So we talked about this last time because it happened right before our episode. But have you had any feedback from customers about the announcement the Outlook add-in is no longer deprecated?
Well, given my single contract right now, what we got going on with client right now, that hasn't really been a battle. But with a prior project, it has raised its head, and in not so wonderful ways, to where we're having to deal with that now, and they were not as happy as I predicted, because we went in with a very very militant stance that it was deprecated, it was going away, they were online, so it was going away. And now it's not going away, and they made decisions as a result of our militant stance. And well, now we're just having to work through them and see what that means to that customer and how we can approach that. So.
Yeah, I had some questions about it from some people, and generally positive questions, saying, "Hey, is this saying something about that the Outlook app isn't ready, or we need to worry about going to the Outlook app?" And my answer was no. It's really an acknowledgement that there's a lot of people on older versions of Exchange or Outlook, or retraining users aren't ready for it. Any number of reasons, but the fact is, it's not changing that much because it's extending the life of it. It's not bringing back the features that were dropped in V9. It's not bringing back offline. It's not bringing back client-side sync.
Right.
And the app is still the future. And I think arguably it's still, if you can go there and if it meets your needs, it's still the better experience because, every other week I hear headaches about people who are upgrading and have to reinstall Outlook clients. I met with somebody this week who still has CRM version 4, and there's no way they're going to upgrade that in place.
No. I mean, if you were going from 4 to 2011, you might have had some luck, but no, not
even if you're on like 2015, you could still find a way to get there, but not with. But yeah, so with them, I'm saying instead of installing the new client, just remove the Outlook client and install and try the app out, and that's probably going to fit. Whenever the Outlook app is generally available, which I still think is going to happen sometime in February, that will resolve all that. So we talked about that last week. Other news, there's a new support experience, and this is not really big news, but if you haven't put in a support ticket for a while, you should go try it out. We MVPs got a chance to try this out early, and I'm impressed because I remember back when we had to put support tickets in through PartnerSource. Mm-hmm. That was a not very good process.
That was a painful process, yes.
And half the time the form would die when you submitted it, and you'd have to type everything in. You had you chose your version, and it was always old versions.
Yep.
This is down to the bare minimum of questions. Submit your question, put in the URL, and go basically. So, not something you want to do because you want things to work, but when you do, it's good for the process not to be inconvenient. Mm-hmm. So let's talk best practices. Our friend Gus Gonzalez had an episode, and I've been on several of his podcasts. He's been on ours, so we're friends. We're MVP friends.
Exactly.
But I think he mentioned your name, Shawn. Actually, on this episode.
He did indeed.
And his topic was industry best practices I disagree with. So a little controversial title, and. I listened to it. I listened to the whole thing, and I agreed with many of the things that he was saying. But on some of them, I thought, I questioned, are these really best practices? Because I can find, like he was mentioning, we have the MVP Ask the Expert sessions at CRMUG, and you don't get anybody agreeing some of the time. So what defines what a best practice really is?
No. And when mine was mentioned, it was the Ask the Experts at the CRMUG Summit a couple years ago with Gus, Chris Cognetta, and myself. And And the topic at hand was whether or not you're on the most recent version of the solution. And my recommendation was no. And what I meant by that is test the crap out of it. You have to obviously have it in sandbox, but I wouldn't necessarily upgrade immediately to your production environment when the new solution comes out, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's primarily because twice bitten, what is that? Twice bitten, once shy, whatever that phrase is.
Messing up your cliches here, I see.
Yes. Yeah. But back in the day in CRM 4, when I was a product manager, what is it? UR12 or UR7? No, that was it. UR7. UR7 got me hard. We tested in our development environment UR7, and it didn't seem to have any kind of gotchas. So we released it for production. We were down for 3 days. And in a financial services organization, that is horrible. So ever since then, I've been quite shy on my production upgrade path. And now with the ability of a customer to maintain the current state for one more rev when they're online, I like to think that gives them a little more time to plan and a little more time to execute a successful test plan to make sure that the version they're on is the appropriate one, and make any changes to that current implementation as best they can. So that is really what I was referring to.
Right, but I think you would agree with the point that Gus was making, that you shouldn't be like 2 versions of the application behind.
I agree.
But you shouldn't be the bleeding edge. And my bleeding edge experience was, we had somebody who was deploying and upgrading right like the week CRM 2016 was released.
No.
And I made the point, we should just roll out 2016. And Outlook client died a horrible death when we rolled it out because just like with V9, they haven't upgraded anybody yet. There's a reason for that, because upgrades have a lot of active users using the system and a lot of stuff going on that's mission critical, and I think that is a best practice, that you don't install something the day it comes out. You wait. Right. You let it sit, even if they don't pull it. There might be something else that is, wait for the dust to settle a little bit, but don't go a year without installing the updates. Stay in the latest release, but people scheduling their updates right now, like most customers aren't wanting to be the guy on February 20th. They want to be the person on March 20th or something like that.
And roadmaps. I think that is really where the discussion point hits the road. Because you really have to have a good plan. You have to have that roadmap. Have someone in your infrastructure to be looking ahead at those. If you're not as fortunate as we are being MVPs, having someone keeping an eye on the technology is the solution. Taking advantage of your various insights programs, making sure that when something is hitting, if it's in preview or not, if it's applicable to you. Those things are the keys, not necessarily whether or not you should stay 2 behind, because I think staying 2 versions behind, there's a reason Microsoft has deemed that you can't go less than that, right? And that should make sense, because it doesn't make sense to go that far back. You're not going to have proper connectivity with services they want to provide to you if you go that far behind.
Right, and that's where I think the little secret is, when you listen to people like us or MVPs or people that blog about CRM, when somebody says this is a best practice, they're really saying this is something that I've found to be a good idea. There's no group of gurus that get together and say, here are the best practices, and chisel them on stone or something. But that's the good thing, that when you read the Microsoft documentation, Microsoft can't say you probably shouldn't use the lead entity unless you meet these cases, because it's all Microsoft functionality. They have to take kind of agnostic turn at it. But that's where podcasts like this, or Gus's, or CRM Tip of the Day, or any number of blog sites out there, learn from our pain, where we've learned lessons. And I was always the guy at like CRMUG meetings defending things like mail merge that everybody hated, and just saying, hey, it's not all terrible. Just because it didn't work for you doesn't mean it doesn't work for anybody. But mail merge did kind of suck, though.
However, you have the patience of Job. In terms of doing things like mail merge, because that it was a little bit unruly.
But find me an out-of-the-box way to generate a letter for 50 people.
I think there's one coming. Isn't there one in the preview?
I don't know.
Of Dynamics 365 marketing?
That's right. That's right.
So, but it really does come down to being active and being involved. Once you implemented Dynamics 365, it really does take a lot, even for us that do it every day, to make sure we understand all the pieces and parts that could happen surrounding the organization. I'm doing an implementation now where we're implementing everything, essentially. And it's very difficult to, keep all the plates spinning to make sure you know exactly what affects what. It's important that we have people involved that have areas of interest, and not a single person is the auditor of all functionality, right? So you really do get in, you really get out what you put into a Dynamics 365 implementation. Knowing those things such as portals and field service and project service and customer service and sales and marketing, and you can go on and on and on. But understanding those things is really the key to getting the most out of your implementation, and when to get the most out of your implementation.
Right, and I think what I keep reminding myself, and I think if you're a person who implements CRM or an architect or somebody like that, you need to keep an open mind and be willing to question your best practices or your assumptions based on what you did in the past. For example, I've recently started to rethink leads, and there's things I don't like about them, but I see things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator and how it's configured to use leads. And I can see certain things where you would want to use leads. So I'm softening to the lead entity a little bit. I still think you want to be mindful of where people go wrong with it, but keeping in mind the way the wind's blowing and the way the functionality is going out. And if you want to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you probably want to rethink your position on leads.
Yeah, and you have to understand the core capability of leads, that and what it's going to do to your environment. So if you convert that lead, obviously you have the out-of-the-box method of converting to an account, an opportunity, and a contact all at one time. Is that a fit? Is that what you want? Those are things you're going to have to review and understand. But as more of these pieces and parts become more integrated than they have been in the past, it is important, like you're saying, to take a look at some of those legacy functions and understand how they will impact your ability to do your business and your ability to take advantage of new capabilities and functionality.
Or there's people that got burned on business rules in 2013 because they were so basic and will never touch business rules. And I think that's bad, to judge something by its initial release and its limitations and then write it off forever. Earlier in the episode, we talked about voice of the customer, specifically how it works with Dynamics 365 for marketing. And one thing that I read this week, that I think you read too, is some things I didn't know about the new version that came out earlier in 2017. Actually came out about 6 months ago, but I didn't look at the small print. And this made me realize that some of the things that, if you went to my session at CRMUG Summit and heard me talk about voice of the customer, I was wrong about several things if you have the new version. One of them is there's been like 40 times more number of survey responses that you can sync in a day. So now you can sync up to 100,000 responses per org. That's pretty cool because, I had people who, with the old limit of 2,400, couldn't use it because, the old limitation was, and I think the million in Azure still applies. You get up to 1 million responses in Azure, but only 2,400 would sync to CRM every day. And so if you got 50,000 responses, you'd have to wait a week before they all sync. So now, up to 100,000 will sync per day. So that's good. And the delivery of survey responses is actually much faster. Now it's near real time, where survey responses are delivered almost instantaneously. So if you've been using Voice of the Customer for more than 6 months, you probably still have the old solution. So recommendation is go to AppSource and update your solution.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the day that Voice of the Customer, you can spin that up on a per case basis, and have a little bit more flexibility in terms of what you're able to associate a survey to, kind of like a mini survey, if you will. Right now, if you're doing a survey, you have your group of participants and your objectives and your outlay of questions. If we had an ability to do that, but on a smaller scale, I think that would be fantastic.
I would like the ability to link the survey responses to other records. Now, I think having it linked to the respondent makes sense, but I think it was either you or Scott LaFonte I was talking to about, maybe it was you, about you'd have a service technician go out on a job, on a work order, and they do the job, and then you can send a survey, and you can use pipe data to pipe in information about who it was, but the response isn't tied to a specific job. Right. So if you got a busy technician, busy technician, and one that does multiple calls for the same customer, it can be hard to figure out a way to link that response to figure out which service call it was.
Right. Agreed. And some of the capabilities that are on the roadmap for field service. We have capabilities of doing things like in-app feedback, but that doesn't really, unless you surface that out to a customer level, it doesn't really give you that direct feedback on that experience without using something like Voice of the Customer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Again, it's a great solution. Even better now that I know that we can have we can now use it for more heavy duty surveys with more responses. Still some things where, and the thing I tell people, I actually presented this at our local CRMUG meeting last week, and what I told people was, keep in mind this is designed to be a customer service survey tool. It's not a marketing survey tool. It's not I'm exploring what products I should build general survey tool. It's probably not an event survey tool. It's specifically how do our customers like our service.
Right.
And if you keep that mindset, it works really well for that. If you try and make it everything, like I'm thinking of a client we had that did a survey for a drawing for a Ford pickup truck, and they got 2 million responses to that survey. You would not use Voice of the Customer for that. They used, I think, Click Dimensions.
Right, because that's more for a marketing kind of angle, correct?
Yeah.
This is something more where you're trying to gain insight to the client on a number of different points to understand how to service them better as opposed to market them out.
Right. So how's your CRMUG chapter doing? Have you been there lately?
Well, thanks for asking. We recently became the proud parent of the CRMUG SIG for project service automation and field service. We have our first meeting next month since our joining of the SIG.
And you're like the Grand SIG Poobah or something.
The Grand SIG Poobah, I think I like the term. Yes, I am the SIG leader. Our goal, we really worked hard to come up with a plan, not only to grow the user base within the SIG, but to grow the SIG in general. We want to collaborate with the customer service SIG maybe once a year and have like a super SIG to where we could do some things kind of in the same vein of the At Your Service podcast with the three tenants: customer service, field service, and project service.
I've got an idea. You could do a voice of the customer survey to see which SIG is giving better service.
Well, right now that wouldn't be us, so I probably wouldn't do that. But but in the coming months, we will do that. But we've already started conversations with Clarissa and Sarah to see how we can. They're the leaders of the customer service SIG. How we can collaborate with them a little bit better in the future to get something really, really cool going for CRMUG members. We're also looking to get some speakers to show the different components and benefits of having the field service or project service as part of your CRM, your Dynamics 365 implementation. And while I'm at MVP Summit, that is going to be a topic of a conversation to see who wants to collaborate. And I'm sure as my friends hear that, they are just so excited. But we'll take advantage of having all the resources loaded for bear there. And I'm not willing. I'm not ashamed to go on other podcasts to promote that as well.
Okay, great. So if you're involved in field service, if you are interested in field service or project service, check out the SIG along with the other CRMUG SIGs. I'm involved in several of them. I think the sales and mobility one I've done some stuff with, as well as several other of the SIGs. Now, is that a virtual thing? Can people anywhere in the world join in the SIG content for field service?
Yes, you do not have to be on site. One thing I hope to do later in the year is to have something akin to the Dynamics 365 Saturday event for PSA and for field service and customer service. Maybe get something like that. That would be fantastic. But we are structured to where this is all virtual. You'll be able to register for the SIG chapter meeting. You'll be able to attend virtually and ask any questions and take part in any sessions that are given as well.
All right, so I'm expecting your LinkedIn title will be changing soon to Shawn Tabor, Senior Solution Architect, Dynamics MVP, and CRMUG Field Service and Project Service SIG Leader.
Indeed, it is already.
You're going to run out of letters.
I am, and I will. I also did the Instruct training. You'll also see official. What is it? I think I'm an official LinkedIn trainer as well now.
And what is your LinkedIn social selling index today?
My LinkedIn social selling index is 79 out of 100.
And can you sell anything?
No. No, I don't sell a thing. Yeah. I'm not on sales calls. Apparently Hitachi needs me on some.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I'm number. I think I'm number 2 on in our sales organization, and I'm not the salesperson. So,
wow, I think I dropped since last week, so I need to learn something from you.
Yeah, I'm up 6% in the past week. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. But it helped. It helped going into. No, I'm number one. I take it back. I just went to number one.
What is your secret? What is the secret of boosting your SSI?
Well, so in order to really boost, what I've found is that you have to use a number of different ways to reach out to people. It's not just resharing updates. One, you have to update yourself. Okay, and in terms of your brand, you have to have a understanding of who you're wanting to connect with and capture interest from, and affect what you update accordingly. You have to find the right people. You have to engage the people that you're wanting to engage with conversation-worthy updates. Again, this is not just I saw this article and I'm just going to share it and that's my update and that's really cool. You have to really add, what I found, you have to add your own kind of flavor to that update and how it affected you personally, or how it made you make a certain decision or do a certain action. Also, the types of updates you provide, not just text, but maybe share a video that meant something to you, or provide input on others' updates as well. It shows that you're active. One, it shows that you're interested and compelled in that brand that you've made for yourself. And as you reach out to those other organizations, other people, it gives them additional hooks to grab onto you, to show and gain interest in you. So that's really how you.
So are you posting on LinkedIn every day or something, or what are you doing?
I try to post every couple days. In terms of the CRM space and what we're doing, it makes it easy a little bit because of all the podcasts that we have. We can do that. I can post about each different little episode.
I post every single podcast. I'm 72.
Well, it's the fact that you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over. If you notice on my thread, I post videos, I post comments, I post updates, I share things. You're generating a lot of content, but you don't share a ton.
I need to share more. Okay.
Right.
So I'm going to share everything Shawn Tabor posts and get my SSI up.
And just for your reference, in our leaderboard, you are 3.
Oh, and nice.
And I'm 8 points ahead of you.
Who's number 2? Who do I need to knock off?
Tom Null.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty tough, so I don't know if I could take him.
But out of the 5, 2 of us are not salespeople. So I think our overall network needs to do some work. So I might spin up some training sessions.
This has been CRM Audio, the Dynamics 365 podcast, with Business Solutions MVPs George Dubinsky, Joel Lindstrom, and Shawn Tabor. This podcast is a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC. Follow us on Twitter at CRM Audio. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or any place else that fine podcasts are available. You can email us at voice@crm.audio with questions or topic suggestions.